A former paramedic faces charges for the death of a man he was supposed to treat.
Organizers of an ultramarathon in Colorado are speaking out after losing one of their own.
Boulder's alternative newspaper is done for now.
9 News at 9 starts right now.
A stormy end to the work week. Lots of hail came down in Left Hand Canyon up in Boulder County, and that threat of storms isn't done with us yet. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Kyle Clark.
I'm Rachel Krause. There's still some active alerts from the National Weather Service. That's why we want to begin with 9 News meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen. Corey, how are things looking out there?
Yeah, it's a pretty active scene for 9 o'clock at night across the eastern plains mostly, but we're not done here in the metro, and we've had all kinds of storm reports across the day. This is a time lapse of the storms as we've gone through the last several hours. We've had hail reports between 1 and 2 inches, and that does include a few here in the Denver metro area. Wind gusts up to 74 miles per hour, and we had a tornado out in Logan County. That was a brief tornado, but it did touch down, confirmed, and we have these rain showers out on the eastern plains. Here's live radar now. We have the severe thunderstorm watch to the north. That goes until 11. Severe thunderstorm watch to the south. That goes till midnight. Lots of warnings across the area. There are still some alerts in our area. Flash flood warning in Morgan County, mostly dirt roads, but this is very heavy rain, and that's going to last for several more hours across the eastern plains. I'll talk more about that coming up in the full forecast, which is in just a few minutes.
A former paramedic is charged with manslaughter for the death of a man in custody.
The man died in Boulder nearly 7 months ago, but the charges were just announced today. 9 News reporter Shalima Maharaj is here. And Shalima, investigators say the paramedic used a dangerous method called prone position that we've reported on extensively.
That's right. The Boulder County DA's office says Edward McClure injected Jesus Lopez Barcenas with a sedative before doing a proper medical assessment and placed him on a gurney in a position he shouldn't have been in.
Last December, Boulder police were called to CU's Center for Innovation and Creativity about a suspicious person. That turned out to be 36-year-old Jesus Lopez Barcenas. Police tried to arrest him. They say he tried to grab an officer's gun. When paramedics got there, prosecutors say Edward McClure, who was working for American Medical Response, sedated Barcenas, put him face down, handcuffed, and strapped to a gurney.
We've warned EMS providers not to place people prone on the stretcher. That's been an admonition for well over a decade.
Eric Yeager is an EMS educator and longtime paramedic.
The back of the stretcher is brought up, further exacerbating his inability to breathe.
In one body camera still frame, Barcenas has a spit mask on.
The primary goal is to protect patient life and safety. But when one of these tragic events occurs, everybody involved, unfortunately, suffers, and it does not have to be this way.
Barcenas died 2 days later. 9 News Investigates' Chris Vanderveen has reported extensively on the dangers of the prone position.
The key for the prosecution in a case like this is, can they show that this particular paramedic was trained on the dangers of this type of transport?
In a statement, AMR says we can confirm that the paramedic involved was terminated when an internal investigation showed that he violated county protocols after extensive training.
We've documented more than 100 deaths around the country of people that died this way. They died because they were held face down.
Now, the DA's office says not only has McClure been charged with manslaughter, he's also been charged with second-degree forgery because of accusations he made inconsistent statements and written reports. Now, he turned himself in today and was released on a personal recognizance bond. Reporting in studio, Shalima Maharaj, 9 News.
Thanks, Shalima. A new report into last month's deadly Air India crash shows fuel to the jet engines were turned off shortly after takeoff. The Boeing 787 had barely left the runway before it crashed. Only one person survived. 241 people were killed, as well as 29 people on the ground. The preliminary investigation report shows that soon after takeoff, the plane had both engines' fuel switches transitioned from run to cut off. And in cockpit recordings, one pilot is heard asking the other why he did it. The other responded he did not do so. The fuel control switches were then moved back to run, but the engines can't get back up and running in time. 9 News aviation expert Greg Feith says a person is likely to blame, whether intentional or not. He says the events in the report point to that, but they're also including an aviation medicine expert and a psychological expert in the investigation.
That goes to examining state of mind. That goes to looking at mental health issues. That goes to looking at a nefarious act or a bad actor that may have had a role in this particular event. They're looking at the pilots, they're scrutinizing it.
Feith says now that the facts of the crash are becoming known, it's likely a criminal investigation will begin soon. He says the full details of what happened and why may not come to light for years, if at all, unless it's taken to court.
A woman from Michigan died today while running the Hard Rock 100 endurance race in southwest Colorado. Just after 9 this morning, first responders got a call for CPR in progress at Little Giant Basin near Gold Lake, east of Silverton. A team eventually found the woman, Elaine Saipula, and tried to resuscitate her, but the 60-year-old did not survive. Cause of death has not been released. The Hard Rock endurance race posted a statement on social media reading in part, quote, "Our hearts are with their family, friends, and fellow runners as we grieve this tremendous loss. We're committed to caring for runners, crews, volunteers, and all members of our community throughout the event's duration and beyond." There are grief counselors set up at the Silverton Gym. That running event goes through Sunday.
A man accused of stabbing 2 homeless men to death in Aurora within hours of each other has been charged with murder. The 17th Judicial District Attorney's Office officially charged Ricky Roybal Smith with 2 counts of first-degree murder today. The charges are related to a pair of deadly stabbings on East Colfax on the morning of June 29th. Roybal Smith was just 6 months into his latest parole stint when this happened. He's also accused in the death of his cellmate at the jail in downtown Denver the morning after the stabbings. Aurora police then arrested Roybal Smith. He's due back in court on July 14th. A reward is being offered for information in a deadly shooting in Denver. Police say somebody shot Tajon Thomas and his home at the Renaissance Lowry Boulevard Apartments off Alton Way around 9:30 Tuesday night. If you know what happened, call Metro Denver Crime Stoppers. Tipsters can remain anonymous and earn up to $2,000.
Colorado is out more than $150,000 after being duped by a career criminal with a history of those kinds of scams. Court documents show William Harris convinced a guy in Larimer County that he was the heir to a long-deceased mob boss fortune. Prosecutors allege Harris convinced the guy that if you'd only pay the taxes on the money, there'd be a big windfall. The man turned over more than $150,000, according to court documents. Harris has gone to prison at least 3 times for similar frauds. One woman was taken for more than $20,000 in Jefferson County back in 2006. She said Harris groomed her for months before convincing her to invest in a non-existent building.
It was really slick. He was very calm, cool, collected, had a very calming manner about him, had a little stride to him, and just seemed like nothing bothered him.
Harris is being held on $75,000 bail, due back in court next week. According to court documents, 2 other people were involved in the scam. As of now, neither one's been arrested or charged.
More than 1,300 State Department employees are out of work after the Trump administration fired them today. As workers left the headquarters in D.C., they were greeted by dozens of supporters. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the firings were necessary to cut federal spending and make the department more efficient. Critics argue it will weaken U.S. influence around the world and the country's ability to deal with international threats. A recent ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court cleared the way for the layoffs to start, while lawsuits challenging the legality of the cuts play out. Well, for decades, you could count on picking up the Boulder Weekly every Thursday, Boulder County's free, independently owned newspaper.
This week was the first in years that they didn't put out a new issue. 9 News reporter Rhea Jha joins us from Boulder now with details on how this alt weekly came apart. Rhea?
Yeah, aside from a brief stint during COVID, you could count on these newsstands to have a fresh copy of Boulder Weekly. And now, either looks like this or has last week's edition sitting inside. I spoke with the former employees who say they don't know if it'll ever be filled again.
Gotta look at your horoscope. You'll never see a horoscope like the one in the Boulder Weekly.
Every Thursday, Martha Manning knew exactly where to go.
I know to come here and I'll get a paper, so.
But this week,
imagine my surprise when I took the last paper out of the box.
The box still had last week's paper.
They've never missed an edition. I believe this week, the July 10th edition was the first edition that didn't print in over 30 years.
And now, former editor-in-chief Shay Castle says it may never come back.
This is the only free print publication covering the entire county, certainly on a weekly basis. That's kind of what we're trying to figure out, is like, why now?
Shay says she was fired last week after pushing back on what she saw as interference with editorial independence. She was the first one.
So basically, the rest of the team involved in getting the paper out, they were all let go the very next day. And everyone else, I guess, just doesn't have a job because there's no paper to put out. Absolute lack of transparency.
After 10 years of writing for Boulder Weekly, John Lendorf says his only notice came when he realized his paychecks had stopped.
I expected to be treated with more respect, and I expected that the readers would be treated with more respect.
He worries the loss is bigger than a paycheck.
Newspapers like this, they're about the things that we do together. We lose something when we don't have these common platforms that all of us share.
Boulder Weekly hasn't put out any public explanation, and the owner hasn't responded to our request for comment.
It's a big loss, and I want to know why.
Looking at these stands now, it's clear what's missing isn't just the paper, but a piece of Boulder itself.
It's really part of the fabric of our community, and it's gone.